Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Merciful, the Compassionate. All praise is to Allah, the Creator of the universes and their Sustainer, the Provider of believers and unbelievers. And may His choicest blessings be on the seal of His prophets, the last of His messengers, and His holy progeny. When we paused last time, we were discussing that passage in the preliminary stanza of Dua Kumail, in which Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam teaches us to invoke Allah by saying, وَبِأَسْمَائِكَ الَّتِي مَلَتْ أَرْكَانَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ, by your names which have permeated the essence of everything. In other words, nothing exists which does not portray the essence of Allah, glorified and exalted. And that is proof by itself of the existence of Allah. You look at anything that is created and you see Allah glorified and exalted in it. And that indeed is the essence of Allah Himself, glorified and exalted. And that is why these names that are given to the qualities of Allah are called Asma'ul Husna, the beautiful names of Allah. And Allah Himself asks us to invoke Him by those names. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. He says all these names, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى, all these beautiful names belong to Allah. Invoke Him by those names. So you can see that what Hazrat Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam does in the very opening paragraph of Dua Kumail is to follow that ayah of Quran and invokes Allah glorified and exalted by His holy names. Of course, we are discussing only 10. We will discuss more as they arise in the course of the dua itself. But and this was not the dua in which all the 99 names are set out. Jawshan-e-Kabir, for that matter, sets out 1,000 Asma'ul Husnas, 1,000 names of Allah glorified and exalted. 100 stanzas, each containing 10 names of Allah. These are the 99 names which are specific, and Hazrat Amir alayhi salam has chosen 10 of them and sets out the qualities of each one of them, and we will see more of those as we progress with the dua itself. But one can see that these Asma'ul Husna are the Asma that can be the ground for invoking Allah. And we do this all the time. We want rizq from Allah. We say, Ya Razzaq. We want cure from illness. We say, Ya Shafi al-Marwa. Ya Shafi, the one who gives cure, the one who gives sustenance. Ya Razzaq. We invoke Him by those names. So in giving Him a wasila of Himself, and I'm only touching this point at the moment, touching the tip of the iceberg. We will come to the iceberg inshallah when we discuss it in greater detail from a sentence in Dua Kumail in which he gives Allah, he makes Allah an intercessor for him, for that particular dua, for himself. But we will come to that when we come to it. For the time being, only to mention that Hazrat Amir alayhi salam uses these names as intercessors for our hajat, our supplication, because Allah Himself has asked that we do so. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. Call Him, invoke Him by those names. So invoking Allah through other means, through other pure entities. And so to have an intercessor who is pure, like the Holy Prophet himself, peace be upon him and his progeny. What Muslim can suggest the name of an intercessor holier than the Holy Prophet himself, peace be upon him and his progeny? So to say that to invoke Allah through another person is wrong. You can invoke Allah through His own other qualities. And it is His own command to say, فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. Call Him by those Asma'ul Husna, by those particular names. Indeed, indeed, that is the quality which is peculiar to Allah Himself. But that is because all creation portrays the qualities of Allah. The qualities of Allah are so manifold and so vast. And in every creation that you see the countenance of Allah, you see the face of Allah, you see the qualities of Allah in everything that He created. If there is rizq created, then it is from Razaq. If there is shafa'ah, if there is cure, then it is from Shafil Mawda, from the one who cures diseases. So all creation and everything that exists in the world portrays the qualities of Allah. And it stands to sense that if Allah, glorified and exalted, has created all this, He would place His hallmark in His creation. The hallmarks would be there because the creation comes from Allah Himself, glorified and exalted. All names that are included in the Asma'ul Husna depict the names of Allah. Because what name exists that can supersede the name of Allah, glorified and exalted, not only in its substance, but also in its effect. The effect that the name of Allah, glorified and exalted, has is enormous, and there are so many examples which I will not indulge in at this point in time, in which the moment the name of Allah is taken, there is an effect on it. And hence we have these tasbihs, that if you want rizq, you say 100 times, for example, that hadith which talks of 100 times. There are various hadiths on the point with which I am not dealing at the moment, in which we are told to mention the name of Allah as a Razaq, Ya Razaq, Ya Razaq, Ya Razaq. Well, so in everything that happens in this world, the name of Allah becomes supermost and becomes uppermost in our minds, and brings the qualities that it is supposed to portray. What is beautiful about Dua Kumail is that all these aspects of divinity are incorporated by way of supplication, by way of dua, and are presented. And hence, reciting of Dua Kumail is not only reciting a dua, but it is gaining knowledge of Allah in a way that is unique. And Hazrat Amir alayhi salam was the first of our Imams alayhi salam to lay foundation for teaching these matters, these philosophies, by the communication of a dua. He was in a political state in which he was not able to sit on a mimbar and shower knowledge on his people, as he did when he ultimately became the Khalif. But for the period when he was not, he was able to teach all these things in various du'as. Dua Kumail, of course, is only one of the du'as. There is a complete book of du'as of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam called Sahifa Alawiyah, in which his numerous du'as have been set out. This has become very famous because of its public nature, by which Kumail distributed this dua and made it public, and has remained with us, and inshallah will continue to remain with us, because so long as the Dua Kumail remains with us, our knowledge, our appreciation of divinity increases, as inshallah we shall be able to see as we move on. The next, and now I'm coming to the ninth introductory matter for intercession that Hazrat Amir alayhi salam teaches us to present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, وَبِعِلْمِكَ الَّذِي أَحَاطَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ, and by your وَبِعِلْمِكَ الَّذِي, and by your knowledge which permeates all things. Allah, of course, is the creator of everything. And if He is the creator of everything, He would have the knowledge of everything. It is not possible that anything should exist that Allah would not be aware of, or if He is aware of, He would not know the exact constituents of that thing, its exact nature, its exact effect, its purpose, its existence, and how long it's going to exist. Everything about that entity is within His knowledge. That gives us an idea of how vast Allah, glorified and exalted, is, how omnipotent He is, what an omniscient He is. That if every stone that exists, every pebble that exists, every gem that in the mines that exist, every house that exists is within His knowledge, one can see how vast that knowledge is, and what an omniscient, what an omnipotent Allah must be, and how great and glorious must He be to be totally beyond our conception. And hence we say, وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. And it is not right to try and understand Allah through humans, because humans are circumscribed. They are tiny, they are insignificant. Allah is omnipotent, He is omnipresent, He is everywhere. And all knowledge is with Him. Indeed, if it were not, if He were not omniscient, He would not be a God. We would not make sajda to Him. Because if He is the creator of everything, then He must not only know everything, He must know the very essence of everything, because that is how everything gets created. He would know exactly what its constituents are and what are the effects and qualities of those constituents. The words he uses, as the Amir alayhi salam uses, are وَبِعِلْمِكَ الَّذِي أَحَاطَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ. It pervades everything, totally. So there is nothing about anything that is not within the knowledge of Allah, glorified and exalted. And so we have these various ayats of Quran which portray this quality of Allah, glorified and exalted. That ayat which says, وَيَعْلَمُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. I choose that particular ayah to start with. He said and this is an ayah of Quran which says, يَعْلَمُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. And ayat very well known. It is in Ayat al-Kursi also. He knows everything that is in the heavens and in the earth. And when we talk of the heavens, we know today that there are billions of stars in the sky. I say sky to use a neutral word. And all those stars are created by Allah, glorified and exalted. Scientists today have been able to tell us that these stars are not in vain. They are created exactly, and they die at an exact time. And when their death takes place, the scientist is able to predict the death of the star coming by a specific process by which he dies. And the scientists are able to say today at what time which star will rise. And if it does not rise at that time, they know it has already died by the process by which stars die. Kullu man alayha fan. We saw that ayat. Everything that exists will die, except the face of Allah, glorified and exalted. So that is proved by kullu man alayha. Even stars die. That is also proved. The scientist has been able to show how actually every star, how it is born and how it dies and how long it remains. And they are able to trace that star. They have been able to tell us that there are billions of stars. Billions of stars. Our sun is one of the small stars in the constellations, in the atmosphere, in space. There are stars much bigger than our sun. So that is the capacity of Allah. If He has created all this, then He would have the knowledge of every star, and every star that is born is known. Every star that dies is known, and another is born. The words he uses in Quran are يَعْلَمُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Everything that is in the sky is known. I use a neutral word because space is not enough to signify what we are talking about, but everything that is in the heavens, everything is within his knowledge. Everything that is in the earth within his knowledge. The abyss, the oceans and what lies at the bottoms of oceans, the corals and how the corals receive their sustenance. It is an enormous philosophy, an enormous subject which is possible to exist only because of the power of Allah, glorified and exalted, and gives us an idea of the greatness of Allah, of His excellence, of His supreme superiority over everything. And hence, one is able to understand how that kun fayakun comes into existence. So he says, يَعْلَمُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. If he has created everything that is in the heavens and everything in the earth, of course he would know everything about everything that exists. And he says this categorically in Quran. And then he says in Quran that يَعْلَمُ مَا تُمْنُونَ وَمَا تُعْلِنُونَ. And he knows what you exhibit and what you hide. What you hide, what is in your breasts, and you hide it, is also within his knowledge. So, because the process of thought has been created by him, it has not come accidentally. That process by itself shows that it is a process that was properly planned. It was a process that was what was laid in the human mind deliberately and by a particular scheme. And we even know how that process takes place. Well, so if that process takes place and he has created the process, he would know. There is nothing one can hide from Allah, glorified and exalted. And if it was possible to hide, then he would not be Allah. He would not be Allah. Then men would be able to control, ma'adallahi ta'ala. Man would be able to control what Allah will know and what he will know. And that is impossible. Because man is a creature of Allah, glorified and exalted. And Allah, so he knows. يَعْلَمُ مَا تُسِرُّونَ. That which you keep as a secret from him, he knows and knows by his own knowledge, by his own capacity, independent of you providing that knowledge. He has invoked, he has commenced the process by which you think and by which you visualize and by which you make your decisions. As he has started that process, as he has laid foundation for that process to exist, the moment that process starts working, he is aware of everything that is going on. So he knows everything that is in our minds. There is nothing that we can hide from him. Indeed, there is that other ayah of Quran which says, يَعْلَمُ مَا فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. He knows everything that is on land and in the seas. So there is nothing we can hide from him. Not only what is in the land, but what is in the seas. And when we look at the seas and look at what happens in the depths of the seas, how the fish receive their sustenance, how corals receive their sustenance, is amazing, is indeed amazing. And how corals exist in those parts, indeed, how fish exist in the depths of the seas and how they receive their sustenance, how whatever they need for their existence is provided, is an amazing subject. Not a subject that can be dealt with when we're discussing 10 items of Dua Kumail in a preliminary session of Dua Kumail. But that shows the existence, the capacity of Allah. Hazrat Amir alayhi salam sums it all up by saying in his introduction, وَبِعِلْمِكَ الَّذِي أَحَاطَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ, and by your knowledge which pervades everything. Which pervades everything. And hence we call him an omniscient. And if he is not an omniscient, he is not an Allah. The person who turns up and says, I do not know, we say, of course, he's not Allah, because Allah is the creator. He's not even a representative of Allah. Because if he's a representative of Allah, Allah gives him the knowledge that he needs to pass on to his people. His representative cannot be deficient either. Just as he is complete, he is efficient, he is all-embracive and all-comprehensive and has all knowledge. Likewise, his representative on earth is given all the knowledge that that representative needs. It is not possible that a creature of Allah would go to that representative of Allah and ask him a question, and the representative would say, I do not know, it is not within my knowledge. And this is why we find that the 12 whom we regard as Imams alayhimus salam, the 12 whom we regard as Hujajullah, proofs of Allah on earth, for each one of them, there has not been one instance when he was asked one question on any one subject and failed to answer it immediately. Not that he did not answer, but that he failed to answer immediately, instantly. And this is why that hadith comes to mind, in which Hazrat Amir alayhi salam is asked by one of his close companions. He is asked, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. He asked him a question, and Hazrat Amir alayhi salam, which he thought was a technical question, and Hazrat Amir alayhi salam answered it instantly. And when he answered it instantly without a thought, indeed Hazrat Amir alayhi salam was in the course of a sunnat tawaf when the question was asked. And he paused and he gave the answer instantly. He was asked, but Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, how are you able to give this answer so quickly without a second thought? And Hazrat Amir alayhi salam says, how many fingers have you got? He says, 5. He says, well, you answer without a thought. And he said, well, I answered without a thought because I know there are 5 fingers that are right in front of me. I don't have to think, I don't have to count. They are with me on my hands. Hazrat Amir alayhi salam says, in exactly that way, all the knowledge that I need to know, all the knowledge that I need to have, Allah, glorified and exalted, has provided me with that knowledge, so that when His creatures ask me a question, I'm able to provide that knowledge which Allah wishes His creatures to have, because Allah wants His creatures to be knowledgeable, not to be foolish, not to be ignorant. That is the level at which Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam lived, and that is the author of this dua that we are now considering, that we are now seeking to study. So وَبِعِلْمِكَ الَّذِي أَحَاطَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ. He has knowledge that pervades everything, and when He sends a representative, He gives him that knowledge, so that when he is asked by other creatures about Allah glorified and exalted, he is not deficient. He is able to give them information, he is able to give them knowledge by which they come to know their Lord, because it is knowing the Lord that is of paramount importance. And his hujjaj are sent for that reason, and that is why we refuse to accept him as a representative of Allah glorified and exalted, as a person who can be a successor to the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him and his progeny, who was a representative of Allah on earth, if he does not have knowledge which he could portray in the way Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam and the 11 descendants from him were able to give out without a second thought. Indeed, to give out just as they knew the 5 fingers on their palm. That is the criterion. And so we find that not only was the question such ever that made him hesitate, but he was able to provide a satisfactory, a complete answer to that particular question. I was hoping we will finish all the 10 today, but inshallah in the next session we will complete the introductory opening stanza of Dua Kumail and move on to supplication itself, because it is in the very next stanza that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam delves into the question of supplications and starts teaching us how to pray for things from Allah. But the last item that he deals with is وَبِنُورِ وَجِهِكَ الَّذِي أَضَاءَ لَهُ كُلُّ شَيْءٍ, and by your light, by the light of your countenance. Of course, we have already gone through this. This is metaphorical, which illuminates. وَبِنُورِ وَجِهِكَ الَّذِي وَبِنُورِ وَجْهِكَ أَضَاءَ لَهُ كُلُّ شَيْءٍ, which illuminates everything. So it is that nur from Allah that illuminates everything. In the next sitting, inshallah, we shall consider that, complete the first stanza, and start on the other supplications. May Allah accept our these efforts and increase our knowledge of His divinity and the representatives that He sent on earth on His behalf. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.